Good morning, everyone, or good afternoon, or good evening, depending on where you are watching anywhere in the world. My name is Jordan Gray. I'm the External Relations Manager for Turtle Survival Alliance, and we are really excited to offer yet another webinar during our annual Turtle Month, which runs from Earth Day to World Turtle Day. By the way, World Turtle Day is Friday, this Friday, May 23rd. I don't know if you've gotten it. I know I have my Future So Bright World Turtle Day t-shirt that Turtle Survival Alliance designed this year. Hey, if you haven't ordered it yet, go to our website, go to social media. You can still order it on Bonfire. And really, it will be there for whenever you want to be able to get it. You probably won't be able to get it in the next couple days for World Turtle Day, but if you love turtle conservation, if you want to have this 2025 memorabilia, and if you love red-footed tortoises, then this is the apparel for you. So we're going to just give it a couple minutes for other attendees to join this webinar. I'm really excited about this webinar because we are talking about the second most turtle-rich country in the world. Now, I'm not going to talk any more about that because I know Eduardo will be speaking about that. So, if you'd like, in the chat, please tell us where you're watching from. If you want to give a shout out to Eduardo because you've met him in passing, he's a good friend of yours, or he's a family member and you're proud of him, please do so. We'd love to know where you're coming from. And by the way, this webinar is being recorded and will be available to you very shortly after the webinar is over. We will send out a link and we will have it on our Turtle Survival YouTube channel. All right, so a couple things. You will notice in this webinar that there is a Q&A and a chat function. The Q&A is where you will want to put your questions for Eduardo following his presentation. Now, you can put those questions in at any time during this presentation. Just make sure that you are putting them in the Q&A. If they go into the chat feature, Eduardo and I might not be able to see them as the chat moves along. Now, I will be watching the chat, so if I see anyone put their question for Eduardo into the chat, I will be kindly asking you to move it over to the Q&A. Now, the neat thing about these chat features is that you are able to chat with anyone that is attending. You can send messages to the hosts and panelists. You can send them to our featured presenter, Eduardo Reyes Grajales, and you can also chat with others that are joining today. So, without further ado, let me introduce Eduardo Reyes Grajales. So, back in 2017, a undergraduate that was unknown to me reached out and wanted to talk about kinosternids, or the mud and musk turtles. He showed a lot of enthusiasm, and just the next year, he presented a paper on kinosternids in Mexico at the annual symposium on the conservation and biology of tortoises and freshwater turtles in Fort Worth, Texas. Now, here we are, numerous years later, and Eduardo has become a force for turtle conservation in Mexico. He has participated in IUCN Red List assessments. He regularly engages with the public and engaging communities into conservation, which he's going to talk about. And the Turtle Survival Alliance supports Eduardo's work logistically, financially, and through being able to help him along in his PhD at the College of the Southern Border in Chiapas. So, Eduardo, please join us, and we would love to see your presentation. Thank you very much.
Hey, Jordan, thank you very much. I will share my screen now.
Go ahead.
So thank you. Thank you, Jordan, for all the words. And yeah, I'm so happy to stay with you here to talk about the turtles in Mexico. But first, I want to say thank you for all the TSA team that is being possible to I stay here to plan all of these webinar. It's great that we can talk with people in different parts of the world, and you can know about what happened in Mexico, in Colombia, in Malaysia, and all the part that TSA is working on. And of course, thank you for all the people that are tuned now to attend this talk. So if you have any questions, but in the situation that we don't have time, please, I will share my personal email. We can talk, we can discuss, and I'm so happy always to know people interested in turtles, especially if are turtles from Mexico. So welcome. Um, yeah, let's talk about turtles in Mexico. First, for people that doesn't know where is Mexico, we can we can recognize that Mexico is in the middle of the continental America. So we have a strange mix for biodiversity from the North America and from the South America. This is very interesting because we will follow some patterns that we will talk in a moment. So you can listen a lot of things about Mexico, about social, about gastronomy, about culture, but one remarkable that we have in Mexico is the great ecosystem that we have. We have mangrove areas, jungle, forests, deserts, every ecosystem that you can find in Mexico, and also in the southern regions that I'm studying you can find this beautiful landscape that, of course, are the home for a lot of turtles that you can find in this place. But other important thing to see for Mexico is this. In this map, in colors, you can see the different ecological regions that you can find in Mexico. And with numbers, you can see the different indigenous regions that you can find in Mexico. This is something interesting that happens in the country, as you can see in this map. Look at the middle of the country and then move to the south part and see how the colors and the numbers increase. So it's very interesting to keep in mind this because I will present you something in the future. So keep in mind this from the middle to the south, these numbers of different regions increase. But specifically that we would talk in this presentation, it's turtles, right? So let me tell you that Mexico is the second country with the highest turtle biodiversity worldwide, just after United States. But the biodiversity of turtles of Mexico, it's very interesting. At the moment, just at this moment, we recognize 52 species and almost 70 taxa. But these numbers can change according to the literature and the different work that we have. I saw that there is Peter Paul Van Dijk here, and Peter Paul knows that the taxonomy in Mexico for some groups it's really unclear and we need a lot of work to clarify these groups. if represents just a single species or we are talking about for a different species. So for the richness that we can find in Mexico, it's important to notice that more than half are endemic, but more important to see is that these turtles are micro-endemic. This means that it's just in some particular regions. We have a lot of examples of this for different turtles that are into the genus Kinosternum. For example, these turtles you only can find just for few water bodies. And the wild individuals that you can find is just for less, maybe less for 1,000. So think about the climate change, all the problems that wildlife fauna in front of, and think about these turtles is really known for other regions or maybe for other groups of turtles, but how you ever think about these turtles in Mexico? We will discuss in a moment more about this. Um, Other important things to discuss about the richness of Mexico is that we have a good representation of turtles in the family. For the mud turtles, I refer to Kinosternidae. For slider turtles, I refer to Emididae. And it's very curious how in this family, in these both families, we have a lot of uncertain taxonomy to refer if they represent more species, subspecies, or just represent a global species. Recently, the last year, we have a modification into the taxonomy for these mud turtles, but it's more that is coming. So let's keep the attention what happens in the future with the taxonomy of turtles in Mexico. And also, even is not a highest richness, we have representations for soft turtles. Of course, for the moment, for the monotypic family Dermatemidae. Let's see what happened in the future because thank you for TSA and other colleagues. We are working to clarify for some groups what happened with this taxonomy. So, okay. What is the reason that we have this great richness? What is the reason that we have this high endemism? Well, this is not my map. This is a map for NN in 2020 that described all the turtle biogeography for the world. And you see how for some regions, even for United States, you have turtle regions that it's really extent. But in Mexico, again, you have a lot of these regions. You have, and that allows, that permit that you have a lot of endemic turtles, and also you can find a high biodiversity. So it's not easy to talk about what species are or not, because we can cover all the country at this moment, right? So we are talking about positive things, about the great richness, endemic, beautiful species, but who is this turtle? Who are these turtles? So some of the species that we can find for freshwater, terrestrial turtles, totally aquatic turtles, and the different forms, colors, ecology, biology that you can find. It's very interesting. So I think Mexico, it's a good lab to have a lot of research questions, and of course just to see the turtles, these beautiful turtles. Uh, but we need to talk for the other part. We need to talk, okay, so other important thing for Mexico is that we have the highest richness for Kinosternum biodiversity worldwide. we have most of the species, and Mexico as described as one of the centers for diversification for this group of turtles. This is very interesting because, as you notice in the last decade, we have the notice that description for two new species for Kinosternon, and maybe other species is coming, but it's not my work at this moment. It's work for other colleagues that are working to have this clarification. But mud turtles are cool too. The other side, Mexico have a complex situation by social, by the production of food, increase the human populations, and that allows that wildlife in general are faced to problems. One of the big problems is the landscapes change. Sorry for the photo that it's so graphic, but we need to see to figure out this in a real sense. You know, in Mexico now with all the change, administrative change, there is a lot of projects to rise economic productions, but just in few cases, this see for all the biodiversity, and are the results. These are the results that we are losing habitats, holy ecosystems, and of course their species. That one of the groups that are most damaged for this, it's true for the life history that they have. So I don't know if you are listening something about this, but this is a reality, and I think it's not especially for Mexico. I think it's something that happens in all the world, but the big difference is the strategy that we take to getting from these activities. So other big step that I didn't know, if you have noticed about the freshwater turtles in Mexico, is one big problem. And we failed to disseminate this information, but we would take very seriously for next steps that I referring to turtle trade. Now my screen is in black, it's okay. But you know, turtle trade, turtle illegal trade in Mexico, it's very serious. And there is not exist a real program to 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 achieve this, to attend this real problem. I will show you an example about this, just considering 1 year and 2 confiscations. And please keep in mind this, because this is just two registrations that we have noticed through the authorities, but how much are in the deep? So we back and we refer to 2020 in the confiscation that happens in the Mexico City, in the airports for Mexico City in May and November, that almost 30,000 turtles was related for the confiscation in these occasions. 30,000. Imagine how many turtles we lose in these 2 confiscation. And of course, this is not the total. We have a lot of confiscation frequently, and well, we don't count with the confiscations that we don't have information, right? But if you ask to me how this truth looks, it's something like this. Is the huge number of turtles that are. Some people say, hey, some turtles comes from farmers that are legal, so blah, blah, blah. But look the sizes, look the species, look how is. I think worldwide we don't have a farmer that is specialized just for all of these turtles. Yeah, we have some UMAs that are legal to grow turtles, but I think in this occasion, this is not the case. Look how many Kinosternum we have, how many Claudius, how many huge Staurotypus triporcatus we have. So when I think about this occasion, I'm always wondering how many populations or community of fresh or wild freshwater turtles they took. How many as Mexicans we lose in these two confiscations. It's something that it's really sad. And as I told you, maybe we fail to disseminate this kind of information, but yeah, I'm presenting you in this occasion. So yes, this is the context that we have for tours in Mexico. We can have a great list to talk more about the turtles in Mexico, but other important thing to talk about for this presentation is that historically, most of the studies that we have in Mexico for to study any aspect for turtles, ecology, genetics, morphology, whatever you can think about, are concentrate or are applied for the center and the north of Mexico. But the pattern for the highest richness of turtles are in the south. So this is something curious, you know? We have some works, yes, but the current group that are working with wild individuals, you can count by hands. So it's a very small group, and we have a great richness. So in this context, thank you for some organizations. Thank you to TSA, and thank you for Real Turtle Heroes. We are working now. I want to say thank you for Zoológico Miguel Álvarez del Toro, especially for Carlos Guichard and Ernesto Pereira, that always support the work that we are doing in Mexico, especially for some remote areas that we can enter easily. It's not easy due to the environmental and due to the social context, but we are on the way. We are exploring, we are taking all the samples, all the measurements that we can. And of course, we are talking with people that are involved in this. And for the comments for the years, for the past of the years, we are meeting with great people that really, really believe in conservation. Because as I told you, if you come to Mexico, it's not easy to work even for the most common species in some cases. Um, and these true heroes, maybe you heard something about in the social media of Turtle Survival Alliance, but there are more that are becoming, and I don't have time to mention all of these great people. But we are not just publishing articles, we are not just measurement. What we do with all of this data? Well, thank you for the work that we are doing, the information that other colleagues are producing, and the trust that some organization put in us. We had involved in some important, I think that it's important, for example, to include some genus as Kinosternum, Staurotypus, and also Claudius angustatus into the CITES. This happens in 2022. Of course, is the work doesn't stop here because we need to continue to save all the turtles. Other great step that we made in the past, it may be something that you know, is the red list workshop that we have to update for the a lot of conservation status for a lot of turtles that live in Mesoamerica. Here we have a good representation, a good researches in the world, especially for this Mesoamerican region, that a great work. We participate on this and we have this kind of results. This is not all the species that we evaluate, there are more, but I would talk to you about something. For example, for the Central American rabbit turtle, the new update for the conservation, it does a movement. We are agree with this, but the information that we have and the different points that we have, this represent a good update. But other, like for example, for Chelidra rosignoni, was categorized as vulnerable. But if you see the account to considering this, it's not really clear what was the considerations to have this. So, of course, we, and in general, in Mexico, in Guatemala, and Belize, we don't have a lot of information for Calidra brasignoni. And this is an attention, this is an announcement for people that can allow us to participate in our work. We need, because work with Calidra is not easy. Enter to the habitats of Calidra, it's very, and even if we have a good populations, we don't find a lot of individuals. I think for this counting this year, we follow at least for 5 years for a good wild population of Calidra. We have just information for 15 individuals. It's not a big, if you compare it with the Calidra serpentina in United States, but it's very strange to work with this turtle. The other turtle that we change, we rise the category, is the narrow bridge musk turtle, Claudius angustatus, that was categorized as new trained. But the real for this turtle is that it's more endangered than we think. You will see in the becoming months, in the becoming time, that how this account is updated because it was submitted and accepted for all the community. And the only, and I think personally, I'm not saying for everyone, but personally, I think that one other critical endanger, at least in Mexico, is Claudius angustatus for the small populations that we have and the fragile, sensitive life history that they have. So this is something to take notes for future steps here in Mexico. Also, we are making publications as the most recently. If you don't have yet and if you want to read, please let me know. I can send you a copy directly and I'm happy to talk as I told you. So this work represents a good step to understand the ecology of freshwater turtles, but especially for the Central American river turtle. This is just one example, but with the PhD that I'm doing now and with the work that the collaboration that we are doing with Turtle Survival Alliance, we will know more about the ecology of this turtle and other too through other methodology as we present here through the stable isotopes analysis and others that we are taking. But other that it's in the way, yeah, we are building this work. It's something sad that we are talking about. If the turtles are there, for example, in the past, the Pacific moss turtle was described as a abundant turtle, but now We don't have a lot of information. And this is a good example. Just see in the X site, you can find a lot of numbers that represent different sites that we applied field work. And in the black line is the sampling effort. In general, you can find the same sampling effort, but the turtles capture is not in the beginning, I doubt that, oh, maybe I'm not good to capture turtles, or maybe my methodology is not good. But no, when turtles are there appears in a short period of time, just one night, just to have an example, at least one tree appears, but where it's not, you can spend a lot of time there and you can find anything. So this is something sad because, for example, for Stereotypus albini, most of the people believe that this is a known endangered turtle, but the reality is that we are losing the habitat and the wild population for this beautiful turtle. And of course, we are not just producing academic. We are trying to talk with public here in Mexico through different events. We have two examples, but we will have more. We can do this in universities, we can do this in festivals, also in the streets when you have, local festivals. We try to disseminate all of this info, even when we are applying fieldwork, at least with my team, we take our time to, talk with local people, what he knows, and try to discuss, to build a confidence for this. But but let me ask to the public something. Yeah, you have the support, you have the place, you know what role you want to study. But how do you sampling a jungle? I don't know if you stayed in some mangrove areas, but how do you sample that kind of landscape? It's very huge. Maybe for some more turtles that are restrained for small ponds, it's okay. But for the rest of the turtles, how do you find that? How do you sample this lagoon? How do you sampling, for example, the Lacantun River, that's a big one of the big rivers in Mexico? How do you do that? Well, in the beginning, with no experience, we experiment some problems, but in the becoming of the years of the time, we take something we tried something very special and important. I refer to the local information. Yesterday I was talking with Jordan for different stuff and we will discuss, yeah, how can you ignore the knowledge for people that are building for 30, 40, 50, 60, 70 years? These people live spend all their life there, so they have good representation about the life history, about where is the turtles. And it's not just the situation that, okay, let me know when is the turtle and that's it. No, what happened with that turtle? How do you see? Is that increase, decrease, is it stable? Why do you eat? Try to discuss, to talk with these people to really understand the conservation in these places. I noticed that this takes a lot of time, but the progress, the future steps that you can find in this site, it's really great. And this is an extended invitation for all the turtle people that make research in United States or other part of the world that try to discuss with local people, try to understand, and if it's possible, in some occasion it's possible, try to collaborate. You will see that you will have a good result for everyone. And of course, we are talking for different ecosystems. We are talking for different species, for different times. But something, at least for this presentation, something that they have in common is the knowledge and you know the love, if we can talk about this, of turtles to care, to conserve in the areas because represents different perspective of the life. And in my perspective now in the PhD that we are talking about this is very great because this brings you the key points to plan conservation strategies and also to do the sample because some cases we think that, oh, I have the material, I know the place because, you know, there are records in GB for other website. Okay, the turtle is here, but it's not easy. It's not easy to do it to the time, do it to for a lot of factors that I can at this moment talk for the time, but we can discuss in future if you want. And please keep in mind this because as a highest richness for ecological regions, indigenous regions, and biodiversity regions in Mexico, this is real something important that we need to really care about for the next step that we have. So this is a briefly context for all the situation that we have in Mexico. I'm happy to stay here and all the work that we are doing here in Mexico. I can mention all the people that are involved in the different projects that we have in all the extension of Mexico. But I can say thank you for Turtle Survival Alliance, Ecosur, Mohammed bin Zayed, Zoológico Miguel Álvarez del Toro, Estudiantes Conservando la Naturaleza, and CONAMP for all the support that they have during this time because it's not easy staying in Mexico and especially it's not easy staying in Mexico and study turtles. So thank you, muchas gracias to attending this presentation. This is my email. If you have any questions, any comment, if we don't have time now, we can discuss. I'm so happy always to meet you. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Eduardo. And looking at the time, so I had put it in the chat. There's a really wonderful video that focuses on the Pacific Coast musk turtle, Starotypus salvini, that was produced in Chiapas. I put it in the chat, but I think, Eduardo, we have time if you'd like to share that video with everyone.
Of course, can I stop to screen my screen?
Absolutely. Feel free to stop sharing this screen and we can move to that video because I think it's something that people will want to watch.
Yeah. Mhm.
And while we're waiting, if you have questions for Eduardo, because again, Mexico is the second most turtle rich country in the world, and most people don't recognize that fact. And so all of the work that Eduardo, his team, and others throughout Mexico are doing is crucial to not only Mexico and North America, but also for global turtle biodiversity and conservation. So again, if you have any questions, because there's still questions that Eduardo and others in Mexico are asking and learning about and trying to find out about. This is a great chance for you to ask, what future directions Eduardo has, maybe about some of those species that we talked about that just were just elevated to species status in the last couple years. Um, while you think of those questions, Eduardo has this wonderful video. Eduardo, if you want to open that up to full screen and then press play, let's go for it.
Do you see the full video now?
If you want to go ahead and click in the very right-hand corner to make it full screen.
I
Oh,
think
there we
I,
go. Yeah. Let's
yep.
let's go ahead and play.
Okay.
Estamos ubicados en el municipio de Majastepec, en el estado de Chiapas, y actualmente estamos trabajando con la tortuga que comúnmente conocemos como cruceayuchi. Vamos a pedir a tres, vamos a tomar las coordenadas de la trampa, sitio que cayó y cuántos individuos tiene la trampa. En este proyecto marcamos para calcular la cantidad de tortugas que hay en este sitio. Esta es la número 125. ¿Cola completa? Sí. ¿Patas completas? Sí. ¿Ojos completos? Sí. ¿Daño en el caparazón? No. Perfecto. Ahí está.
Thank you.
Okay.
I want to say that I recognize that I'm really proud for this team in the coast because these people win a lot of knowledge now for turtle, for this, for the Pacific most turtle. Even for me, I think that they know more that for this turtle than me at this moment, but it's okay.
Yeah. And I know a few people said the video is a bit choppy, and hey, that's technology that happens on Zoom. So please check out the chat to be able to get the link, and I'll put that video back in there right now so you all can have it straight away and be able to look at it after this. So let's move on to our Q&A session. We have a couple good questions in here, and then Eduardo, I have a few of my own that I do want to ask you. So, this is a good one. Going back to the focus of the international turtle trade on Mexico's diversity, which country, if you know, is the one demanding the most of turtle exports from your country?
Well, this is a really hard question because we know about where is the places that the turtles arrive, but we don't know the real countries or spaces or sorry sites where there is the demanded. We know about the demanded for some countries in Asia, in Europe too, but we don't know if this is the final because many animals now are now movement worldwide.
Right. Yeah, from my experience
Mm,
with Mexican turtle trade is a large majority end up in Hong Kong and China, and then are often dispersed elsewhere. So whether they are sold directly in Hong Kong or in mainland China, or then dispersed to Taiwan, to Japan, to other Southeast Asian nations, the United States, the European Union, all the countries within the Middle East. So, uh, for those watching, typically with these Mexican species, Hong Kong and mainland China is the epicenter for these species to be brought into the trade and then dispersed elsewhere from there. And if you might not have noticed, I put in the chat. Really, this has been for the last decade. I remember very well in 2014 and 2015, there was a large focus on rhinoclemis from Mexico. And
yes.
then that, we'll call it that fad, kind of died out. But in that time, thousands and thousands and thousands of rhinoclemis were exported, especially um, the uh, Mexican wood turtle. Um,
Mm,
so in recent years, you've had much more of a focus on these kinosternids, like Eduardo studies. Again, as he demonstrated, there's a large diversity of them, and you have people collecting them by the thousands, if not tens of thousands, and exporting them internationally. Um, Another good question. So this was put in the chat, not in the Q&A, because you brought up how do you find these turtles? And you and I discussed, working with locals is so important because humans have spread all over the globe. We live amongst turtles, okay, not the other way around. Turtles don't live amongst us. We live amongst turtles, right?
mm.
So besides that, are you all working with eDNA or environmental DNA technology in any of the areas in which you're surveying?
At this moment, no, but this is one step that we need to take. But all of these represent some expenses, some projects that we don't have because the first step, the first goal that we entered with TSA, it's basically to know where is the turtle and how are. Okay, we did a lot of exploring, field work, and now we know where are most of all of these turtles. Next steps at this moment is build all of this methodology because with eDNA you need to first prove ex situ and then you can prove in situ to have the right data that you can have in the field. So it's not easy for the aquatic system the different aquatic systems and for the species that you can find. So we are on the way. We think we will have notice in these days if we have the opportunity to collaborate with Smithsonian Institute. I participate in that institute to develop the eDNA for Dermatemis mawe, the first step. But let's see what happens.
Excellent. Thanks, Eduardo. Next question comes from Chris Hagan, who I know you know well. Do you have
Hey,
a
Chris.
species or group of species that you enjoy working with the most and why? And what is one of your most memorable field experiences working in Mexico?
Yeah, yeah. Oh, I can choose one turtle. All
I
are,
know we get these questions, right? All of us
yeah, yeah,
all
all
of
the
us
time.
turtle nerds get this question. You know, what's your favorite species or the one you enjoy working with the most? And it's like, oh, that's so difficult because there's 484 types of turtles and tortoises around the world. You know, how do you choose? Um, so, like, okay, so what is your most memorable moment? I know just last week you and I had this just wonderful discussion about working with the Central American river turtles in Mexico, and you know, you painted such a vivid picture. So yeah, so that sticks out for me now. What about for you?
Well, for the most memorable, I think I can choose one, but I think that something that have always happened to me that is very interesting, beautiful in some sense. It was a Central American river turtle. Yes, for sure. The place where I go to find this turtle in the north of Chiapas, in Tabasco, in the Lacandon jungles, always you learn something because you notice that it's not just that hurdle, it's the whole environmental, the moon, the quality of the water, how is some plants, it's a lot of knowledge that you need to take. And when we are at night or so early to catch this turtle, the view that you can have. But one special, maybe it's for one locality or first dermatemis. Just one kind of context is one context about this is that this locality in the past, Richard Bogg, the famous turtle research, says that no, in this lagoon there is not a Central American rabbit turtle because the water is bad, because it's too hot, blah blah blah. So yeah, in the beginning, we doubt that that was real because we spent like a week, sampling this turtle, and in the final part, we find other turtles, but not Central American. So we doubt that, okay, maybe Richard was right that there is not dermatemis here. So in the last moment, in the last trap, when we are removing the traps, there is a juvenile of the Central American rabbit turtle to prove that they are still there. Of course, we back and we tried other methodologies other times, and we have more sample for that locality. But it's like we spent a week working all the day to find that turtle by sun with all the mosquitoes, nothing, nothing, nothing. And in the final part, there is. That was a good experience in the field, and that allowed us a good emotions to continue the work there. And it's very interesting how dermatemi survival. You will see in the future with some works that we will publish. I'm working in that now, but I will present you in maybe next year or two, in a couple of years, to publish this.
Yeah, that's neat. And besides the fact that you found a juvenile, it shows that there's reproduction going on, recruitment into the population. There's likely still adults that produce that juvenile, or hopefully the adults are still there. So it, like you said, it really like pushes you forward. It renews your energy to keep pressing onward with that field work. And for a species like the Central American river turtle, that is, it's so necessary in southern Mexico and Belize and
But
Guatemala that we understand where this species still lives, where it still thrives, and what's needed to conserve it. Because this is one of the most ancient lineages of turtles. It's the last surviving member of its family, Dermatimidae, and it's one that it's one of the most endangered turtles in the world. So yeah, thank you for all the work that you're doing. I have a question from Rotary here. What are some of the challenges or dangers you've experienced doing field surveys?
Um, I think it's something related with the habitat loss. You know, when you have conflict, for example, for burned by local people to make crop, you can talk with people. You can talk directly with the owner and offer an alternative. But for these companies that wants to create hotels or wants to create any kind of any new development houses in this kind of sense, you can tell because you have in front of you a real, I don't want to say, but yeah, like a real monster. You know about this with Kinosternum bhakti. This is the real big problem with that turtle. Yeah, we know where are the turtles, but the city, the houses, the buildings are increased every day. For my friends Tagger, from Alejandra, from Estudiantes Conservaron la Naturaleza, it's the same big challenge that we front. Of course,
Mhm.
the context is different because it's one of the top endangered turtles, but here is not the case, and it's everywhere. As I told you, that's the reason that we choose to work, collaborate with local people to insurance for the roots, the wild communities or population of turtles. To
Right.
say,
Here's another question. This one's from Pierre Molson, who you may know from Corsica. And
Mhm.
Pierre asks, for the most endangered of those in Mexico, are there plans for ex situ breeding programs such as in zoos?
Yeah, yes. I know. I mean, it's not my totally work but I know for some zoos, some other spaces that are breeding legally these species, and I think when is the correct way for some species. For example, again, Kinosternum bhakti. What you can do when you lose the habitat? What you do? You release that individuals in the lagoon or in the pond? Yes, maybe you can take it, and maybe I think it's in the way, right, Jordan, that is now creating something in other part of
Right,
uh,
yeah, creating assurance colonies for these species, breeding colonies, so that when and where possible, progeny can be released into the wild, and then also Taggart and Alejandra, working with the city of Puerto Vallarta, are creating uh, uh, basically containment barriers around some of the lagoons to help keep the turtles from crossing the roads, etc. Those are just some of the projects that are in the works.
Yes, and I think this is great. This can works for some species, small species, but how do you work with some species, for example, for Central American river turtles, for all? Because it's not just the size. It's, for example, you need to take, and this is important to notice and to say it for the public, you need to take the genetics too. If you know this, if you read about dermatemis, there is some genetic issues that you need to take because it's not all the same. We have different haplotypes from the south, from the north, for the southern Mexico, from Belize. So this is something that it's really specific. So when we think about breeding programs, we need to take this issue.
Yeah. So you've brought together, and it's 12 o'clock now here on the East Coast. I want to take just a couple more minutes because there's a couple important things. So you've talked about students conserving nature or estudiantes conservando la naturaleza. Um, we know of the work that you are doing in Chiapas. Um, there's other work by other NGOs, nonprofits, and universities and colleges in Mexico. What is the status of like a conservation program for turtles in Mexico? Um, can you tell us a little bit about that?
Yeah, as I told you in one part of the talk, yeah, we have some academic groups and some organizations, but you can count this with your finger of your hands. I can say for Claudia Centeno that are doing a great job in Tabasco with all her students. I can talk about Gamaliel Castaneda in Cuatro Ciénegas. I can talk about Rafael Lara in the north, working with Oferus and other colleagues. But if you compare this with other groups of turtles, for example, marine turtles, this is represents just a few, because how many turtles do you have in Mexico? How many sea turtles do you have in Mexico? Less than 10, maybe? How many turtles do you have for freshwater and terrestrial turtles? More than 50? So the effort is concentrated in one. I'm not saying that it's bad. I'm just saying that we need to think in diversified the effort, and if it's possible, create. It's not easy. It's not easy. National, we don't have a lot of support to do this kind of works. But thank you again for TSA. We can continue and create this kind of effort through Mexico.
Yeah, and that brings me actually really to my next question. So for all those watching, like what are your needs? In the webinar that we held the first week of May, or second week with Pelf Nyap Chen in Malaysia, we said, what are your needs? Because this is Turtle Survival Alliance's Turtle Month. We have a large giving campaign going on. And it's important for people to understand that this work, especially in Mexico, where you have such understudied species, uh, that this work, the only way to continue is through funding and through understanding the needs so that that funding, can be appropriated correctly. So I know I have a list and I'd love to put it into the chat here, but please, yeah, give a few minutes to talk about what your needs are now and for the future.
Well, of course, always the basic is support to continue the or exploring and the field work that we are doing for some species. You know about continue because it's not short distance. Even if I am in the same state, we need to travel like 7 hours, 8 hours, 10 hours in some cases because they are in remote areas. But I want to tell you specifically for 2 points, two big points. One, that we are developing more, that it's the local protection for remote areas. Uh, we find a special locality for the Artemis mawe. I don't know if you read the email, but just in a few time for field work, we find almost 100 with sampling 100 of dermatemis mawi. That this is really unique locality that we work. So we need support, you know, because people knows about important, but in this case, people doesn't know the tools, you know, to pay someone that they stay in the jungle or to protect this. They have for other animals as parrots, as jaguar, but not specifically for turtles that needs other kind of tools. Other important that we are developed, and yeah, we need a really good support is for genomics. We plan to now we have the samples, but now we have all research questions, but this is not easy to do because it's not just like stable isotopes. This is not just for mitochondrial DNA. For to at this level is more expensive, and this is the genomics analysis take more time, take more resources, and of course we need your help to achieve this goal because we can just I'm not saying that this will happen soon, but it is something that we are looking because we need to clarify the taxonomy, the systematic in basic words, it's if Dermatemidae family now represents just one species or we are talking about for other different taxa. This is something really interesting that it's not easy to do, but we are working on. That's the reason that we visit a lot of places to take samples for Dermatemis mawi under permissions and to have this and take the support if we have with it's not only me, it's people, the Dr. Tonatiu in Mexico City that are collaborating with me to create this project.
Okay, thanks, Eduardo. So, as a final note that I want to put out there to everyone is if you, in case you missed it at the beginning, I've known Eduardo since about 2017, right? He was an undergraduate student. He was interested in the kinosternids in Chiapas, Mexico, in the southernmost state in Mexico. He reached out to me. I put him in touch with Turtle Survival Alliance board member John Iverson, who's just a world authority on kinosternids. And as we say, the rest is history. So it's turtle conservation is not just about the turtles, it's about the people. So I want everyone watching, if you know somebody, especially youth who are interested in turtle conservation or conservation in general, if there's an aspiring high school student or college student. Just Eduardo's a great example of how in, just 7, 8 years, you go from somebody who sends an email because they're interested to now being so integral in conservation work for an entire country, with a focus on southern Mexico. So what I really want to impress upon is that for anyone interested, there's a place in conservation. It just takes work, as Eduardo's demonstrated. It takes a lot of fortitude. Conservation is always a battle of highs and lows, but you always have to focus on the end goal. And then also just getting yourself out there, getting involved, like I said, the year after I was contacted by Eduardo, he was speaking at the annual symposium on the conservation biology of tortoises and freshwater turtles. So we have that annual symposium upcoming in just about 2 months. It is in Chattanooga, Tennessee this year. If you know of any aspiring turtle conservationist, I think as Eduardo can attest, it's a great place to be able to meet, to be able to express your vision, your chat about your ideas, formulate or conceptualize programs, and then just get started, get going. So, with that said, Eduardo, any last comments?
Yes, I want to recognize that it's really true. In my personal, as you say, when I contact you and you bring me the contact of John and then the family of Turtle Survival Alliance, you know, let me enter, know, and support. This is a really good experience. And other good experience was or are the TSA symposium because you know people that love turtles, people from other part of the world that have the same vision of you. And this is really good because I know it's not only my case, but I know for other colleagues that then contact for others and then build synergies to, the final part is care turtles, make conservation for turtles. That it's a good point. And thank you, Jordan. Thank you for the invite. Thank you, TSA, for the invite and to stay here and for the people that are to this presentation. Thank you.
Thanks again, Eduardo. Thanks for all your work. And to everyone watching, thank you for joining us today, for being interested in the work that is occurring in Mexico. And just remember, it's only 2 days until World Turtle Day, the greatest day in the calendar year for all of us turtle lovers, conservationists, researchers, enthusiasts, to celebrate these ancient and endearing creatures that now more than ever need our help. So, from Jordan Gray and Eduardo Reyes Grajales, signing off. Thank you very much, and we hope you enjoy World Turtle Day. Come celebrate with us. Take care. Bye.
Bye.